What is up, everybody? We are back to discuss more Star Wars news dropping at D23. That was this past weekend as of this recording. I am one of your hosts. My name is Darian Scalamoni. I am joined by Mark Jacobino.
How's it going, Darian?
My Star Wars buddy, as always.
Yes, sir.
We don't have as much to discuss as we might have thought we might have, especially because Star Wars got nothing at Comic-Con. It usually doesn't because they have Celebration. But D23, there were a lot of rumors that certain things may be revealed. The show that you have claimed many times, I'm not even sure if it exists. We did finally get a trailer released to the public. And we, excuse me. Oh my God.
Whoa.
We can start with that news because with the news that we got at D23, we did get confirmation that one major project is going to be every year. So we have, excuse me, Skeleton Crew at the end of this year, 2024, Andor Season 2 in 2025, The Mandalorian and Grogu confirmed for 2026. Those are the things they covered. No new announcements, no updates on James Mangold's project. Still nothing with Sean Levy, but he's been actually very vocal in interviews talking about how he's in the writing process, and it seems like that one might actually come to fruition, maybe. The Taika movie, obviously, nobody has any idea what's happening with that. Patty Jenkins, so many ways we could go, but of course we only get the three things we basically knew the most about anyway. Let's start with Skeleton Crew.
Sure.
We get the trailer.
Yes.
It is very Amblin inspired, which a lot of people talked about. It is like some people said like E.T. meets Star Wars.
All right.
It's very young. It's driven with younger cast members, and we get the reveal of the picture that you joked about. You're like, it's the only picture we have from the show, and it's been for 2 years of the reveal of Jude Law either being a Jedi, which they claim he's a Jedi, or he's just a Force wielder.
Right.
Overall, what were your thoughts on the trailer, though? Because I've seen mixed things online, and you're obviously, this was a show, at least initially, you were excited for, and now because of what's happened with Acolyte and the trend, the unfortunate downtrend we're going in Star Wars, I'm not sure if this was something that actually made you feel a little bit more appetizing for Star Wars going forward again, or if you were just like, I kind of feel the same.
Yeah, I was never very excited for this show since it's been announced. I was excited at the prospect of a show from a child's perspective or a group of kids' perspective, and if that's done well in the Star Wars galaxy, that could be really great. But it was never a show I thought would be on the top of my most anticipated list. You know, Jude Law being attached is exciting, such a talented actor and a really interesting actor to see in Star Wars. And obviously the run that we've been on with Star Wars, with the Acolyte being such a disappointment, and now seeing a trailer that, while again the production looks solid for it, like it looks good, it looks like the visuals look solid. The Acolyte's trailer looked good, the visuals looked good, and then we saw it and it looked very low budget, soundstage looking. There wasn't a grand scale to it. A lot of the scenes felt very claustrophobic. So again, this trailer might be promising a lot, but these might be the shots that feel grand, and then when we actually see the show, it again feels like that constricted volume soundstage feel that a lot of these Star Wars shows have ended up feeling like. And my only hopes for it fall on John Watts being the showrunner, because he is so talented with the Spider-Man movies. He is really good at capturing the childlike perspective, and that in Star Wars sounds exciting. You know, the Spielberg, Goonies, like that kind of vibe is exciting, but there's just a lot of things about this show that, you know, some of it is maybe unearned because it's based on other Star Wars projects and less on the merit of this show. But I think that contributes because it's all part 100%. Of Lucasfilm and what they're putting out recently. So yeah, for me, I'm still just, I'll watch it. I'm not like counting down the days till December 3rd for the 2-episode premiere. I'm not like, I can't wait for Skeleton Crew. I'm just going to be an observer, and if I'm pleasantly surprised, that's great, but I have low expectations.
I think everything you said is fair. I think it's inevitable when you have a string of lackluster or disappointing projects, especially within a certain world or galaxy, or, I mean, we always use Marvel on the show, so I'm going to try to use a different one. Jurassic Park and Jurassic World is one in which it falls under that category, right? The first Jurassic World was a movie where people were like, yeah, all right, it was fine. It was fun. It wasn't as good as Jurassic Park, but I can get behind this. And then it just constantly kept going downhill, and they're rebooting everything because of it. Star Wars doesn't have the luxury of doing that because of so much that's already built into what they're doing, right? Obviously. The Acolyte, like you said, was
a disaster.
An interesting experience, and yes, disaster is probably the best way to put it. The John Watts point I do think is an important point because, and this is no offense to Leslie Headland as a creative, but Leslie Headland for Star Wars did not work. John Watts, and that's a little bit of the hesitancy that I have with this because I'm starting to feel that I don't know if every creator can work within Star Wars. I mean, you have the same thing with Marvel, but I think they're a little bit more malleable and like flexible with how they can do certain things. With Star Wars, I unfortunately have this feeling that it's like the guards gating at the castle. It's like, well, if you don't understand this thing, then you can't do it. And we've talked about how Tony Gilroy was the opposite of that, right? He came in as an unbelievable screenwriter, and he comes in, he makes Andor, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And there were people that obviously contributed to the lore that came behind the Easter eggs that we got of certain moments in time in the Star Wars galaxy. But he knew his story, and he was telling it in such a brilliant way that the show was effective. I hope we get the same thing here with Watts. It feels different because so much of this not source material, but so much of the content that we're getting out of the show is entirely different. I mean, we're going from very adult, very altruistic and realistic sort of circumstances with Andor versus now we have these 4 kid leads that are going to run this thing. One of the shows they talked about that they were inspired by was Stranger Things. I love Stranger Things. If they're able to capture that magic within Star Wars and within the show, that would be massive.
Right.
I don't know if they're going to be able to do that. John Watts does have the background, like you said, working with younger actors in Spider-Man, but also he is already a successful showrunner with a show that was on Hulu called The Old Man. Got Jeff Bridges a Emmy nomination. So he's also worked in television. So it gives me hope for seeing what can happen there. But the trailer overall, because I haven't even really talked about the trailer necessarily.
I was going to say, yet. Like, as a casual Star Wars fan, did this trailer even excite you?
It excited me to an extent because, as you said, the production value seems high. And I'm really looking forward to seeing them do something different based on what we've been getting recently again, because it still feels like it captures the spirit of what Star Wars is. And it reminds me of like what I felt with Mandalorian, just a little bit younger, a little bit younger, but it's still something that I'm excited about the prospect of it. Jude Law is the one everyone's talking about. Kerry Condon is also in the show, which people seem to forget.
Yeah, I didn't see her.
She's not in the trailer, so I'm curious to see who she's going to play there, obviously keeping it kind of under wraps. But she was brilliant in The Banshees of Inisherin.
Yep.
So getting to see her work in this world, and she was very vocal about how excited she is to work in Star Wars, which that can mean a bunch of different things. But everybody wants to work in Star Wars, right?
Yeah.
So the trailer as a whole, it didn't overly excite me. It was a show that when we talked months ago, I was like, this is the show I was more excited for than The Acolyte. And if it were up to me and I was running Star Wars, I would have flipped this and Andor wouldn't have been done by the end of this year, but I would have just waited on this show and put it out after Andor. Because I think you wanted to build that momentum for Star Wars going forward, because if this show fails, I don't know if it's necessarily going to have an impact on Andor. It may, but it's very different because we've had a string of success come from that exact same team before. And Diego Luna's now been with the character for, what do you say? It's been 10 years.
Right.
So it's a different kind of thing. But overall, it wasn't something that I was overly excited about. But we're a few months away, finally. This thing being reality.
I think final thoughts on Skeleton Crew. I wish it was a contained story. I wish it wasn't connecting with the outside world, but I think they're very much leaning on the fact that this might connect with Ahsoka and the other galaxies. I know the pirate that we saw a lot in Mando season 3 was shown as like one of the main pursuers, and that's what they've talked about, which doesn't exactly like excite me. I kind of wish that this was just new, like kids exploring a different part of the galaxy. I know some people are a little bit freaked out about like the suburbs of the Star Wars galaxy, and for me, I agree. Like the manicured lawns is a little weird. It doesn't feel very otherworldly. But it wasn't that big of a deal for me. But I hope the kid actors can carry the show, as we saw with the Acolyte. Not the best showing from the kid actors, and I hope Lucasfilm remedied that here, and we have an alien in a leading role, which is cool for a kid role, which is cool. But we'll see.
I was gonna say they don't have a great track record recently of child actors in Star Wars.
No.
So that's That's a little scary.
Yeah.
But we'll move on from Skeleton Crew.
Yes.
As we said, 2025. I don't think we got an official date, but we know that in 2025, Andor season 2 will be coming.
Come on.
We've been waiting to talk about this show. We've been waiting to talk about the show for so long. I will say, I'm the casual Star Wars fan. Mark dives deep into all of it. I do want to rewatch it because it's been so long since I've watched it, and there's certain elements of it that I forget. I forget kind of where we ended up. Mm-hmm. We did get reveals that Ben Mendelsohn's character of Orson Krennic will be returning to the show, which is awesome. I love him as an actor. I love him being in Star Wars, and he just resembles the kind of actor that should be in Star Wars. He's just great.
So good.
Alan Tudyk will be back as K2SO, which a lot of people thought was going to happen. And we did get confirmation that Saw Gerrera will also be back, played by Forrest Whitaker.
Yeah.
Just the acting talent alone in the show,
it's incredible.
Gets me so excited for it. And I've said it before, it might be a hot take. I think Andor, besides Empire Strikes Back, is probably my favorite Star Wars thing ever. Like, I'm obsessed with the show. And I just think it's brilliant television in general. It's kind of like right before this, we recorded our Marvel thing. Vinny talked about how much he loved Daredevil and how that captured a different aspect of Marvel. Andor encapsulated an entirely different version of Star Wars that we had never seen previously. And it made everybody kind of mouth water for more of that. We start to get a little bit of reveals. We get some comments from Diego Luna, who was there. And he talked about, like we said, playing the character for 10 years. What's your anticipation level at? Do you wish you got to see everything from the show? And is it the saving grace of Star Wars for you right now?
It'll never be the saving grace, unfortunately, because it's a known quantity. We knew it was going to be 2 seasons. We know exactly where it's going to end off, which some people might be upset that it's a show that we know the exact end point of it, which sucks. Again, with Star Wars, I feel like we always know the ending and we always backtrack from there, which does suck because it takes away that element of surprise. But Andor for me it's that show that I just need right now for Star Wars. I need that boost of life again from it. I think it has a very interesting job because they've confirmed that this show is the second season of this show is gonna take place over 4 years. Each arc, 3-episode block will be 1 year of Cassian's life, and then they're gonna time jump. I know that's probably very scary, and it is a little bit concerning is the wrong word, but it might make it feel a little more disjointed than season 1, which felt so cohesive and everything led into the next thing, and every little chess move from Mon Mothma to Luthen to Andor, like all of it felt like it was connected. Season 2, I think, unfortunately, will probably feel a little different because there'll be like vignettes of the rebellion building and the missions getting bigger and bigger, and I think something that can counteract maybe that disjointedness is the scale that Tony Gilroy and Diego Luna have been building up and saying the scale of season 2 is galactic wide. It's bigger, more exciting. So I think that's something they're going to hang their hat on. I'm really excited for that. I can't wait to see more Mon Mothma family drama and her maybe inner working against Palpatine. Like, I think that is so exciting to explore that Coruscant angle of things. What happens to Luthen's character because he's not in the original trilogy? What happens to him? I'm so excited.
I'm also very excited. And they talk about the galaxy spanning that's going to happen in the second season. Not necessarily a prediction from me, but we might have discussed it previously. And I feel that part of what can, and this is such a pipe dream, and I just wish it would happen, and maybe it does, because it's kind of a different creative team behind the show. You remember a time, I don't remember if it was Celebration or it might have been last year's D23, where Diego Luna, I believe it was him that said, like, initially the show was going to be 3 seasons, or he was signed on for 3 seasons. Do you remember this?
No.
Okay. Because this was in the news. I don't know if Luna was the one who said it, or if Gilroy was the one that said we plan to do 3 seasons. And now, obviously, we get the confirmation, and everyone's talking about how season 2 is the final season of the show. Because they're covering so much time in a short amount of time, I mean, 12 episodes is still great, but it's a lot to kind of function in one complete singular narrative. The run times might be longer. We could see them sort of take a page out of like a Stranger Things book, which is a lot more episodes. But if they were planning on doing 3 seasons and they said, you know what, let's tighten it up, let's just make it like the biggest, most cinematic season 2 that we could possibly do.
Yeah.
And maybe part of that was also because they're awards hunting, which is possible. I mean, the show, you said, was nominated for a Peabody.
It won a Peabody.
It won a Peabody,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. So there's so much momentum going into this show that I feel that what a perfect opportunity for them to just be like, you guys want more of this? We're going to give you as much as you could have because of the problem you just discussed. The unfortunate reality is we know how this story ends. So they need to fill a lot of story in. And if it's going to take place over 4 years, I don't know, maybe you give us, maybe if you end each arc with like an hour and 20-minute episode, it would just feel massive.
You're getting me excited, Darian.
Listen, man, I'm trying to get you hot and bothered. I mean, I'm stoked for the show. Like you said, there's so much to love about this. And it's so funny because I don't know if you felt this way when the show was first announced, but I remember with all the prospects of the potential things that were supposed to happen in Star Wars that never came to fruition, this was very swept under the rug.
Absolutely.
People were like, we don't really care about Cassian. Like, he wasn't even the best character in Rogue One. Like, why do we need to see more of this character's story? And Tony Gilroy just, like, I don't know if it was him that came to Disney or Disney came to him, and it was poetry in motion.
I vividly remember seeing the first trailer for Andor, and my entire like thought process of it just flipped. I was like, "Oh, this looks fantastic! Like, wait, this looks like it could be some of the best Star Wars we ever get," and it ended up doing that. And just from the first trailer, just the way that they presented it, I was like, "This looks different," and it was.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm so excited.
Yeah.
I can't wait to. It's gonna be so nice. Hopefully, knock on wood, pray all the hands to God that it's going to be really refreshing for us to discuss the show
and be like actually excited about Star Wars, and not have to grasp at straws and things we like. The last thing I want to talk about with Andor is Disney and their like tight-lippedness around releasing any footage or trailers. We saw at Celebration, which I wasn't able to go to, but at Celebration they showed a scissor reel from Andor season 2, and here they showed another couple clips from Andor season 2, and nothing has been released from it. And I don't understand why Disney is so tight-lipped. I get this is an exclusive event. Like, you pay money to get there. I've been to Star Wars Celebration. I never wanted to feel like shortchanged, that I was in the room and people sitting on their couch were getting the same exact experience. But at the same time, there has to be like some like hype here. And the only thing out of this weekend for D23, Disney's biggest convention of the year for Star Wars, is a Skeleton Crew trailer, which it feels like they're missing that like uppercut, and I just don't know why they're like that. Like, I just know that they're going to release this Andor trailer on a random Tuesday with a People magazine like cover, and it's just like, where's the gravitas? Where's the excitement here?
I wonder if part of it is because they're in such a transitional phase right now. Like, they don't really know. I mean, we talked about in the beginning that this, even though Skeleton Crew is supposed to link to the Mandalorian and the Ahsokas of the current framework of what Star Wars is in live action, it all feels disjointed. Like all of these shows are very disjointed from one another. I mean, Acolyte, despite it getting all these terrible reviews and a lot of hate towards it, rightfully so, it has to do with a time period that has nothing to do with any of these other projects. So it kind of just goes in one ear and out the other, at least for a little while. Like, I haven't thought about the Acolyte one time since it's been over.
Right.
Now I'm looking ahead, but I understand what you're saying, especially because I think with Andor, at least in particular, and maybe it could be the same for Mandalorian Grogu, there's an established trust built in now with those two.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Andor, you know what you're going to get. Mandalorian season 3, a lot of people did not like, but there are a lot of people that still did enjoy it and liked certain things that they did with Bo-Katan. And I think there's momentum going into that movie because it's going to be a film, and we have Jon Favreau at the helm of it, and he knows that character better than anybody because he created the show. So that would be my response. Again, I understand as a fan, you want to see more, and I don't blame you, dude. I would watch Andor clips all day, every day for the next. When do you think the show is dropping? We know it's 2025, but do you have like a?
I think they're gonna maybe they'll try and end it on May 4th. Like, they'll try and do the finale.
So you think it's gonna come out early?
I don't know. Like, I know they like to do fun things around May 4th. So whether that's a mid-season finale sitting on May 4th, we know Skeleton Crew is 8 weeks. So December 3rd, they're doing it. Well, not 8 weeks, 8 episodes. They're doing a 2-episode premiere on December 3rd. So where does that put us 7 weeks later?
That probably puts us,
like mid-February?
So maybe? You said December 3rd?
December 3rd, 2 episodes, premiere.
Yep. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It puts us mid-January.
Mid-January. Okay, so
So you think we get Andor in March?
maybe March.
Did we get the first Andor in March?
No, I don't think so.
Okay,
I don't remember.
I
But
don't know why I thought it was
think
March.
they're going to try and line it up with May 4th to some degree. But like you said, if there's only one project of Star Wars for the rest of 3 years, they might want to push it out and get the most out of 2025 instead of being like back to back. So
That's what I think.
I totally understand that.
That's
as
what
well.
I think. I have a feeling that they're going to either premiere it on May 4th if they can, or like right around that time. Let it go for 12 weeks. That gets you to the summer. They might have an animation announcement.
Yeah.
They could do a new season of. There was a panel. We talked about this before we started rolling. I think they did talk about Tales of the Jedi, but they gave nothing in terms of a season 3.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
But they said it was coming, I think.
Like another anthology.
Yes, but they haven't said who was going to surround itself with.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think Andor again wants to fit in the Emmy window too. So whenever Emmy awards come out,
so it's got to be before June.
Okay, so then they'll probably try and do that because I don't know if they'll get as many just because I think again the first season was so independent of Star Wars. I think season 2 will be very focused on connecting with Star Wars, just like Mandalorian season 1 got nominated for best drama series because it was so just a good show and not based in Star Wars, and that's why season 2 didn't get that.
Yeah,
I think that's another thing that's playing into it, but yeah, we'll see. We can jump into Mando and Grogu, which we didn't get a lot of from.
We didn't. There was a sizzle reel. I know you said you hadn't had a chance to see it. I luckily saw it for the ticket down. The Mandalorian and Grogu, the dumbest title in the history of Star Wars projects, but it is Favreau and Filoni, the dream team, essentially, in terms of kind of rebirthing this new Disney era of Star Wars. And May 22nd, 2026, I was explaining to you what I had seen. It starts sizzle reel-ish, and then we start to get some new footage. We get this unbelievable shot at the end with Mando and an AT-AT shooting at him, and it's just unbelievable. It looks. My biggest thing that I took away from it was that it felt cinematic, and Favreau was very excited to talk about it. Jon Favreau is such a unique filmmaker because he doesn't pigeonhole himself to do one specific thing. He's done everything. Yeah. And that's why I really love him being in Star Wars. That's why I hope things work with John Watts, because these are the types of voices that I think need to be implemented in Star Wars a little bit more. But I love the Mandalorian story. I love the character. I love Din. I would really love to see Pedro be there a lot. I don't think that's going to happen, obviously. But I was really happy to see that it feels a lot more cinematic. And I know Zeb is a character that showed up it was Mandalorian season 3, right?
It's right at the end.
Yes. Yep. And so we get a glimpse of him joining the team, and they confirmed that at D23 that was definite, that was going to happen. But it was very little, and that's coming May 22nd of 2026. So we got a long time to go until that, but I think they're filming. And they should be done filming probably by the end of the year. So
yeah, they just started recently, which is why I was kind of surprised they had footage to show, if any. But yeah, it's exciting. I am worried about the story direction of it coming off of season 3 and kind of feeling a bit directionless about what they want to do with this story. Again, we feel that they're trying to again tie this into Thrawn coming back, and so this isn't going to be like a definitive kind of ending per se for a movie. It's definitely going to feel like a setup by the end, I think, unfortunately. But I am excited about the prospect of Zeb being some sort of, a main character, or like at least a main side character in this movie, because he's a main character in Rebels, Filoni's baby. Again, Filoni bringing these animated characters to live action, which I have not always been the biggest proponent of. I like when the characters feel singular. They have one voice, one presentation. But because Zeb is a CGI character, they can have the same voice like they're doing with Thrawn. Lars is reprising his role, and it feels at least cohesive, exactly. So Zeb, I think, will feel cohesive, and I think this very gritty, on-the-ground fight against the Imperial Remnant idea that they set up at the end of Season 3 is exciting. Mando and Grogu kind of going on these missions again, but being very directed towards taking out the Imperial Remnant, working with the New Republic, and Zeb maybe being their liaison to do so. I think that's all really cool. Filoni knows that character, and I think that's just exciting prospect. I like that you saw it, and you said it felt big and felt cinematic, which is exciting. I just think I have some reservations with where the story goes, and the story maybe feeling just like a, well, we're too scared to put the Rey movie out first as our first movie back in the theater, so let's do something we know it's going to sell, Mando and Grogu, and let's make the story very approachable and not like a definitive ending, and it'll set up more Star Wars stuff. So that's where I'm kind of,
It's kind of what I just said though with the flip side with the television thing, right? Where I was like, they should have let in with Andor first because there's so many reservations about what Skeleton Crew may be.
right.
Like it's so interesting. I feel like the TV side and the film side, even though it's run by the same people, it's just not in conversations with one another. Like they seem so disjointed, so much of the stuff. But at this point, it's going to be, when was Rise of Skywalker? 2018? 2019.
Yeah.
So it's going to be 7 years since we get a cinematic in theaters Star Wars product. And there's a lot riding on it. Like you said, I think that's a big part of the reason why they shifted the Rey movie. And
yes, it's got to make $1 billion. This Mando and Grogu movie
it does.
has
I
to
think
make
it
$1 billion.
will. I think it will. I think we're starting. I mean, there's certain film like Deadpool and Wolverine made $1 billion, and it's still kind of growing. And I know there's a lot of momentum behind that and the return of Hugh Jackman. But Mando is such a massive character already, and especially Grogu. And I think that's why it's in the title. I mean, you might as well,
of course.
You might as well name the movie Baby Yoda and Friends, and it's like, oh, let's get $1 billion.
No, Baby Yoda and Pedro Pascal.
Yes, seriously. But no, I did like what I saw from it.
Do we think Bo-Katan's going to be in it?
I would have to assume so.
Okay.
There's no glimpses of her in the
Katie
trailer.
Sackhoff,
Love Katie Sackhoff. Love her in the role. And so correct me if I'm wrong, but they decided that this was going to come before or maybe in place of a Mandalorian season 4. Correct?
Yeah, I think there was some speculation that season 4 was still going to happen, and then they were going to do the movie to cap it off. But then people were like, "Oh no, it's just the movie." And so I think
okay. So what I think is my prediction is that, and I did say the only things that have been announced is one project per year. I think we're going to get Ahsoka season 2 in the same year as when this releases.
End of that year.
And it's going to connect.
Right.
I think so. Or,
okay.
And I will say, because I understand what you're saying, it's like end of year because it hasn't even been announced. I think it's being written already. And I think we might get a surprise announcement at some point. Like, I mean, think about when they announced that Filoni was going to be the new, what's his title? Do you remember?
Ooh, it's not.
He's running
director,
the shit
but
over there. Let's just say that. Filoni, when they announced that was going to happen, that came very out of left field. It's not that we didn't already know that information, but they just dropped a huge Vanity Fair article. I can see them doing the same thing. Now, that might be counterproductive, like you said, where it's like, no, we should be building momentum for our projects.
Yeah.
But I have a feeling that at some point at the end of this year, could be around Christmas time, because Disney always loves to do that stuff too, or the beginning of 2025, there's going to be a reveal that we are going to go into production with Ahsoka in a couple months, and we're going to have it out for you maybe a few months after the Mando movie comes out, and it'll connect in some way. To try to set up this bigger overall, like we've heard, like this Infinity War-esque Star Wars project that is going to come to fruition in the next 5 years. Probably.
Yeah. They have Celebration next year, which I'm sure they're going to try and keep as much of the big reveals. Probably the first trailer for Mando and Grogu will come out with Celebration in Tokyo. I'm sure that they'll announce Ahsoka season 2. But yeah, I think realistically that Mando movie will probably cap off that story, and then everything after that with Din and Grogu will be Ahsoka, Din and Grogu, all of that against Thrawn. And I don't think we get more Mando and Grogu after that movie, whenever that culminates. Like, I don't think that'll go on after that. I could be completely wrong, but that's my prediction.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So we're not getting a season 4, you think, of Mando?
I just don't think that that's what they're building up for. Again, I never liked the whole movie in between TV seasons. It just feels extremely disjointed. I get that we're in a new age where content is very easy to digest, but it just feels very weird that Mando would then become a show where watch season 1, 2, Book of Boba Fett, Mando season 3, movie season 4. Like,
yeah, no, I get it.
It just seems like a mess.
I get it. I totally get it. Well, that was all the stuff we got on D23 for Star Wars. We talked Skeleton Crew. We talked Andor Season 2. We talked The Mandalorian and Grogu. That all rhymes. That's so funny. But let us know in the comments what you guys think. What is the project you're most excited for? Do you think that Skeleton Crew looks like the show that you were anticipating? Does it have that Amblin kind of feel, that Stranger Things sort of vibe? What do you guys think about that? Obviously, Andor was a massive success in season 1. What are you looking forward to with season 2? And then, of course, If you guys had a chance to check out the sizzle reel maybe online before they took it down, what did you guys think about that? And your thoughts overall on them bringing Din and Grogu to the big screen. Let us know in the comments what you guys think and like this video if you can. You could also subscribe to us. We are the Culture Wave Media Network. We cover all things film and television as well as Star Wars. Mark and I will be covering Skeleton Crew come December. So be on the lookout for that as well. And you can follow us all on social media. We're on Instagram. We are on TikTok. We are on Threads. We're on Facebook. And Mark also has his social media, which I will throw to him to pitch really quick before we sign off.
Yeah, sure. Star_Wars_Mark of Balance. I do the Mark of Balance podcast, diving into everything Star Wars a little bit deeper than me and Darian go, but still with that film and TV perspective. So yeah, go check it out. We'd really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, signing off, I am Darian Scalamoni.
I'm Mark Jacobino.
Peace out, everybody.
This is The Culture.